Welcome back, guys. Welcome to Spaghetti Coat Junction. So, I'm trying to tie all the wires together, and what I did is something I should have done before I started this project, and I went and I watched the motion picture. If I don't have to watch the movie, I don't. But there's a YouTube video, which is great because it's called All Ships. So it just shows the shots of the ships, which is all I care about. It shows the shots of the ships, and it's still 25 minutes long. So I was looking for the rate of blink rate on these two, because I've seen people do this build, and actually the blink rate on these two is the same as these three. So I'm going to tie those in with these three. There's no shot of it in the movie that I could see, so it just seems more logical to have all these into one and the bridge light separate than to have these three blinking separately from these. A few things I did discover that I have smut still on here. Gotta get rid of that. So the two nacelles, the two little blinkers at the end, blink at the same rate as the one light under the secondary hull, which blinks at the same rate as the bridge. So they're all fast flashers. So I screwed up. So I really screwed up. It's a different rate, and these won't flash together. So, oops. Kinda gotta do this stuff to, kinda gotta research. But anyways, I'm doing this so that I don't screw up on my 1350, because that would suck. So, yeah. Oops. Those rates are different. Oh well. I'm just going to say that Scotty was drinking scotch in engineering, and he accidentally spilt it in a drunken stupor all over a panel, and it shorted out the blinkers for the nacelles. He just hasn't fixed it yet because he's recovering in sick bay. So there's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to get back to work on figuring out what goes where with this. Be right back. Well, guys, everything's tied together as far as the blinkers. I found a shot in Wrath of Khan where these two are blinking in unison with these three. So there's that. These three, to get them together, I did have to remove the timing chips because I'm sticking the timing chip at the end of the line. So I had to take them all out, and I cut them all a little short again. Let's hope that's enough wire. Anyways, I had to add extensions onto these three little soldered on little wire extensions to get them to meet up. And then I had to solder on another extension to get them over to these two. And then this third extension onto that so I could run it out to the secondary hull and tie everything together. Or not the secondary hull, the bottom of this, and tie them together. That's why I made this long, because I don't know how long the other one's going to be. So, and this will all have to be, once this is tied into that, that'll have to be tied into another one. That's the one that's going to go down the neck, and that one will have the timing chip on it. Whew! A whole lot of wiring. So I am done with this, and now I move on to the underside, and I'm going to get that tied together, and I'll be right back with that. Well, I got everything tied together right now, and it's actually officially plugged in with my DC adapter into the floor down there. See the little green light working? And I did that because these batteries just aren't gonna were overloaded by everything I had together. So as you can see, I got this. All those lights are coming through perfectly. I got all the windows lit up there, and the sensor dome lit up there. All of my RTS thrusters are now lighting, as you can see, and I do have my blinkers lighting up here, but I'm going to turn off this light. You can see it in a little darker. Okay, as you can see, Everything's lit up. But you can't see the green. There it is. And you can't see the red, but there it is. And that red, it is a flashing. There it goes. Okay, so though everything is flashing at the same time. I've got it temped into the chip, into the timing chip. But these three, the two on the back and the one on the front, are way too bright for me. The green is actually perfect. That's what I want. Because in the movie, it's really subtle like that. It's not this huge bang, bang. It's this nice little subtle thing. This is hooked up into a 100 ohm resistor. This red is way, I can't even see it. This red is way too dim. So what I'm going to do, oh, and I didn't have any, I don't have the underneath ones hooked into it right now. Because I wanted to test the top. So what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to tear out my wiring. And I'm going to connect this one, and this one to a 100 ohm resistor. And then I'm going to take the 270 off the red and connect that to a 100 ohm resistor and see what that does. I'll be right back with that. Alright, you guys, there they are, all blinking in unison. That red looks a little pink, but I'll explain that in a second. So yep, there they are. All the green, the whites, and the red. So I had to take everything apart. That's what I did. And then I said, nuts to this, trying to use these different colored LEDs. And I just took some white ones and I painted them green and I painted it red. That's why that looks pink. I'm going to add a drop of red paint on the top of there, and I might add a drop of green on the top of this, but I think that looks pretty good. That just looks a little too pink. But there we go. So they're all wired into the same timing chip, and there is a resistor on here which resists current for white. So now I have to take all that apart and I have to wire those up to white. I'll be back when that's done. There we go, guys. The underside is all lit up. See, I got all my RTS thrusters. I've got all the blinkers. I've got that nice sensor dome in the middle, and my very bright impulse engines. So I think it's about time we close up this clamshell. So I'll be back with that. Alright guys, almost time for saucer unseparation? Question mark? I went through and I light blocked everything, really super light blocked everything with the old tulip here. And yeah, I really light blocked this deck right here, this part of the deck. The blue crystal is showing through and these two flashers were showing through, so I had to really paint that. Got my RTS all painted very well. I've got my 3 blinkers painted. Same thing on the bottom. And then I went through at the bottom and I removed all of the paint from this edge because I'm gluing this edge. And I don't want anything in between the plastic and other plastic here, because I want that to be welded very well. So going through here, I had to, the sections where there weren't windows, most of them were high, were almost like little bumps. Let me see if I can kind of show you what I had to do here. Where is that section? There's the photo etch. I had to sand them down. And you see this section with the, where is it? The photo etch. Where's the photo etch? There's the photo etch. I actually had to sand it all the way down to the photo etch and kind of sand a little bit at the top. You can still see there's a bit of a hump there. Just a touch of a hump. And that was almost every single section here in between my windows was like that. So I sanded those down. And I marked off the lights that blink, because once these two parts are together, I won't be able to tell without checking them, and why bother doing that when you can just mark it off with a little tape. So these are my flashers. These are the rest of the lights, the RTS and these internal lights, and my officer's lounge. And I think that's it. Just the internal lights, officer's lounge, and the 4 RTS. And on this, it's these lights that are around here. Again, the RTS and my impulse engines back here. And that's this one right here. So once these are together, I'll have to take these, splice them together, and then splice that into my timing chip I have over here. So now what I'm doing is I'm going through this and removing the paint from this edge, this leading edge around here, and I'm going to have to remove a bunch of this stuff, a bunch of these. Let me show this. These reinforcing like bulkheads here are to help you to line everything up, because wherever there is one of these, there is a light on this corresponding side, and a lot of the hot glue and the method I used to get these in here and light block them with the electrical tape, those are right up to the edge. So I'll have to be removing a kind of a bunch of this. I think I'm just going to file these down. The other thing I've been doing is the impulse deck. I've got that painted. I've got the final coat on that, and all I have to do is wait for that to dry, remove the masking tape because I masked off where it's going to... oh, that's the other thing I have to do. Don't want to forget that. I have to remove the paint around here and then around here. Those are the mounting points right in here, and there's a little edge down here. To remove paint on those to get a proper bond. So yeah, I have to remove the masking tape, and then I got my photo etch up somewhere over there, which I'll have to put on as well. And that'll be cool to see those finally lit up. But I'm gonna get back to work on waiting. Actually, no, I'm gonna get back to waiting for all this paint to dry before. I don't want to mess with it. I don't want to mess with this until this paint is dry. But I will be back. Next time you see it, hopefully, it will be together. And then I may move on to decals. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. More in a minute. Well, there she is. She is together. With God, it did not go together well. I sanded down those things, those little bulkheads, pretty far, and still it did not go together well. I almost should have just sanded them off, but there are a lot of very wide gaps all along this edge. They're just terrible. So that's going to require a lot of puttying. I expected that, so maybe not this much. You can see it looks really warped in there. Ah well, it's together. Hopefully it'll stay together. I'm going to leave this for a day at the very least, and then come back to it and take all these clamps off of it. I'll be back when that happens. Alright guys, I needed to light it up. So here's all my wires. They're all hooked together. They're all soldered together too. I soldered these two. Here's their timing chip. This will fit nicely down the neck. I think... Hold on here. No, I will know it. I know it fits down the neck. I'm just thinking there's quite a bit of... Yeah, I got plenty of wire that'll go into the hull. That's not even where the neck goes, but yeah. So, plenty of wire that'll pass down into the neck. And into the body, into the engineering hull. So yeah, I had to light it up, had to see what it looked like. Still drying. Lots of work to do. I've been looking over it. I temped in that. Actually, the paint was still wet, and I just held it up to there, and the paint was just held in place by paint. But yeah, you can see it's in there. Quite a light leak. I did have some, when I put the battery, it only lights, it wouldn't light the interior lights, these guys. It would only light the, these lights, the engineering, or the impulse, the bridge, this little one on the officer's lounge, but it wouldn't light the main windows or the BC deck windows. And when I was looking at it, I had some overspill into the rec deck windows, but now you can see with the light, you can't even see that. So that's good. So, lots of work to do. There is a huge overhang right here. In fact, it is, let's see if I can, right there's the worst part. Yeah. Yeah, I got like that much overhang. It's quite a bit of overhang. It's really weird. There's none here, as you can clearly see. Just a little gap, and then it gets past the rec deck window. Gets really bad. In fact, so bad by this RTS thruster. Hard to see with all these clamps in the way, but yeah, you can kind of see there's a little up and down right here. There's a little, gets a little wobbly right there, and then this is the worst part where it overlaps, and it's not like there's a huge underlap, I guess. There's not a huge part where this comes up. There is a little, you can hear it, but not nearly as bad as this. And this lasts all the way to right about where this light is right here, the forward blinker, and then it gets nice and even, and then right about here we get a little bit of the underside of the hull is actually popping up over this. And then it evens out by here and over here. And I started gluing here and went around. And my God, this whole section here wouldn't fit. I don't know what I could have done to make it fit better. Probably just remove those stupid bulkheads in there, because if you look at that ship, you can see now my wobbly nacelle. That's totally off there, the port nacelle. But that's from that's the light up kit from the 90s, 92, 93, I forget if it's Star Trek 5 or 6, but that fits on there pretty well. There's barely an overlap. Outside of the fact that I didn't fill those gaps in, there's really not an overlap on any of that hull. So they must have done. It feels like they did something to the mold, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Because yeah, that's gonna be fun to sand that down. And I did get some cracks when I put this together in my previous work. Right here, I can see a light leak through there now. Yeah, there's quite a big crack that happened in a few places, mainly on this side. This whole side went together smooth as silk, but about when I got to here, everything started to go to plop, and it just through this whole section here. From here to here, nothing would fit, and I really had to clamp this thing together to get it to fit. And that's kind of why this is a little wobbly. I'll try to fix this as best I can with Bondo, but let's get a shot of this in low light. Nope, let's turn that off. There we go. As you can see, all the windows, they look perfect. Those impulse engines are going to get blown up by the camera, but they look really good in well, not in the camera for my eyes. Same thing with the crystal there. It's not that bright. Just this nice blue glow. Yeah, and same thing with those lights. They're not as Abrams, but yeah, all the RTS are working great. Got the windows working great, just need to fill it in. And you can see that's pretty bad, that gap there. That's this through here, and then through here is probably the worst. Actually, that's probably the worst section. That's the biggest gap. So I'll be filling that in with Bondo, and thinking to mask these windows off with probably, I don't know how. Maybe I'll just masking tape the window, but I don't know. That edge is right. That's the other unfortunate thing, is the edge is right up against almost the top of those windows, so that's going to be a thing. And all my my underlights, of course, are working just fine. All those windows lighting up perfectly. All the RTS, all the blinkers blinking in unison finally. And you can see on my finger there underneath, unison. Yeah, so it's really nice to have this done. So I'm going to be back with with some puttying. Well, as you can see, the clamp collection is it's off. Clamps are off, and I've officially just installed my impulse engines there. It's gonna need that's gonna require Bondo around the whole thing. There's just a giant gap just around the whole thing, even the bottom. So after getting the clamps off, I noticed that this. You can see giant El Gapo, and it's so big you can actually see it makes a little bit of a hump right here. I debated whether or not to tear this whole thing apart, but that would be even a bigger pain. So I'm just gonna fill that in. So that's what I'm gonna start with, is filling and puttying this whole section here. And actually, I'm gonna start with sanding this down. I need to sand this down, which is kind of worrisome because, well, it shouldn't. Maybe it shouldn't. I'm just thinking about the RTS thrusters and those holes. Let's see, little holes there. As you can see, that I'll have to sand some of that down. So before I can go in and fill it because of the overlap. So I'm going to work sanding and filing, actually. Start filing the ever-living snot out of this. So I get to work with that. I'll be back later. Alright, well, I got the sanding and the filing all done. Unfortunately, I see this nice lip here. It's kind of an overhang. I lost that on this side a little bit. I tried to kind of put it back in by sanding this here, but you can clearly see there is less lip here if you look at that line right there than there is on this side. And I'm going to lie to myself and tell myself that, oh, the Aztecs will cover that up. But they won't. So I've got a clearer picture of what I'm working with as far as those gaps go. Let's see. And they don't really get bad. In here it's not too bad. Not too bad back here, not too bad around here. And it's really not too bad till you start to get into here. And then the worst of it, of course, being up front here. But overall, it could have been worse. So I'm going to get to work, actually going to mask off the windows. I am going to have to go back and obviously repaint this. But for right now, I'm just going to tape off the windows so they don't get any Bondo in them. And then later on, I'll have to individually mask all these windows off. Which is something you never want to do. But you have to, because clamshell. Anyways, I'll be back with my puttying. Alright guys, I did some fixing before I actually officially get to puttying. This hump was annoying me. So what I did is, the gap was so big, was so large, I just took a toothpick. I kind of pushed it in there to widen the gap. And I took my Dremel with my cutting tool and very carefully, I went in there and I removed as much of that bulkhead as I could. As you can see, I did, however, put a pretty nasty gouge into it when it skipped and went brrr. That's not a problem, I can fill that. But as you can see, this right here is nice and flush now. And I don't even have to putty this. I got that so well. So I fixed that. Now I'm officially puttying, I swear, I promise. I'll be right back. Hey guys, I totally forgot to film any of the puttying, but it's not that exciting anyways. So here she is, and you can see the windows. Those are masked off, except for it looks like the mask got blown out of that one. I just have to scratch off if there's any paint on there, but yeah, you can see there is that. Don't know how I missed that, but that's there. I'll have to fix that, but as you can see, that seam is pretty much toast. And anywhere it's just a touch, you can see a hump right there. Anywhere it's just a touch, I've got to do some wet sanding, a touch goofy, I guess, like right in there. There's going to be a sensor band that goes right there, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. See, like the rec deck, it's a little wonky there, but again, I may go in and fix it. I gotta wait for the paint to dry for a couple of days. But yeah, that seam is pretty much gone. Just a little bit more touch-up to do on it, like there. So that is actually where I'm unfortunately going to call it this week, because I have to wait for paint to dry. So, thanks guys for watching, and I hope to catch you next time. Take care.